All right, we are here and we are live. Hello, everybody. I am here with my good friend and mighty companion, Tom Quattrotri. Quattrotri, I couldn't even say
That's all right.
it.
It doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter.
It doesn't. What's
Um,
the name?
what is the name exactly? And yeah, I'm excited, Tom, to join with you. First of all, for just to kind of put people in the know, whoever may be watching this right now or at a later time, Tom Quattrocchi, you've been a good friend of mine for many, many years, and
Yeah, it
just as
was.
important. What were you
It
gonna
was.
say?
No, I think it was like since 1994 in the terms of the.
1994.
Yeah.
And at some point during that friendship, because since I've known you that long, you had taken up the course and I had taken up the course. At the time, we were living on two opposite coasts, and so about 10 years into a relationship, we found out we were both course students. And
Yeah.
fast forward to 3 years ago, you helped me put together this documentary that will be soon released on the course. So today is really about some reflection and contemplation as to what has unfolded over the last 3 years. We'll talk about the documentary, but truly this is not about the documentary. It is something much deeper. It's really the healing and the uncovering in the mind over the last 3 years and the purpose that the documentary has served. So I want to ask you, just to start from, because it'd be interesting to hear your stories. Do you remember when I first proposed the idea of the documentary? Would you mind just kind of just sharing where you were with the course and perhaps where we were in our relationship and where you were living and whatever is inspired to come out of you as you share the beginnings of this documentary that we just finished doing?
What's inspired to come out of me? Let's see. I remember the thing that I remember, and even when I wrote it on Facebook, it was. It seemed sudden to me. Like it was already like it was a done deal when it was presented to me from you. It's like you had the video equipment. Um, I don't know. It was just so sudden, and it was immediate. I mean, really, the yes was. It was just the timing was perfect. Um, so yeah, it was. It just seemed like that. And now to even say that it's 3 years later, it's crazy. Um, but that was the fun part about it, and it was so definite and exciting and inspired. Where we were, you were working at Bloomingdale's, and I had already at that point I was not doing any type of regular corporate job. So yeah, I was open, and it was perfect timing. And as far as like, and then I think the other thing you asked was about doing the course. It still amazes me that it's not like we got together and said, "Hey, let's do the course together." It was just like it just happened. It seemed to be happening separately. And then with Gary's book at the same time, we were reading at the same time, and that was a book that just kind of jumped out on the shelf. And um, so with the course, uh, the biggest thing that I say really was when I first started reading it, what it was telling me was so radical. I put it down for many years, and then I was just picking it back up when we kind of got together and started talking about it. So, and that brought us up to here in this film, and so yeah, that's all of that.
That's all that. Yeah, I
That's
remember
all of that.
vaguely. I vaguely remember having conversations with you, and you were reading Gary's book, The Disappearance of the Universe, and I
Disappearance
was
of the
reading it,
universe.
and I was reading it at the same time, and it was a
Same time.
coincidence.
Yeah, it's just
If
it's
you
just
would have
great.
if you would have told me back then that you and I would actually be doing a documentary and doing our mind training together as we are, to presently,
Yeah,
I wouldn't have known what you were talking about or meant. But yes, we were reading the books at the same time, and coincidentally, in our movie, in interviewing Carrie Trefett, one of the things she shared is how pivotal or instrumental Gary's book, The Disappearance of the
yeah.
Universe, was to her to the course. So I remember when I asked you to help out with the movie, vaguely remember bits and pieces. I was having an experience with the course, and I was so excited about the course, and I just really felt compelled to share about the course. Originally, it was about the course. In other words, there was this documentary that was going to be made about this text. I didn't know it at that time, but really the documentary was just a tool or being used by what course language you'd say, the spirit, to really help me or help us or help the mind. It wasn't a movie about A Course in Miracles, although it can seem that way, you know, and it's certainly titled that way and sold that way, I guess. But at a deeper level, the course was always, the movie was always really for us.
It's always a backdrop. It's always a backdrop, always. Everything. Hawaii is, as it all is. You know,
which is where your hotel room right now. This Google chat. I said this hotel room and this Google chat. It always is a backdrop.
Right. Even right now, it's like who's out there, like who's it's just one, you know. So, and there goes a phone.
So and the phone's a backdrop.
It is a backdrop. A little bit too much.
So share with me a little bit of just let's look at this idea of a backdrop. How would you share what a backdrop is? Like how is that useful for the mind?
Well, what we say by backdrop is we still, you know, we believe we're in a world of form. You know, we think we see bodies. I'm here. I can see myself in a little box down over here. And then I see you in the big box. And so I'm talking to a dear friend, Craig, at Google Hangout. You know, but the spirit meets you where you are. So what it does is it translates the form to help unwind the mind. And so, you know, the form is what's ever going on in your life. If you're conscious that it is used for good, it is used for the unwinding, which is happening, then it's become such a beautiful ride, world, a dream, happy dream. So that's the backdrop. So it's like and what it does is it just stops making it seem so real and so, you know, like the main thing in your life, the form, what's going on around me in my life. And it's like just kind of in the background to what's really going on internally. Which is the unwinding, which is the waking up, the seeming waking up, whatever it is, the happy dream. So that's what I think, you know, when we say backdrop, that's what it is. So when everything's given one purpose, you know, it is all about
when everything's given one purpose, everything's a backdrop. And what you shared makes sense. It's like the suffering mind always is caught up in making the form the front drop. I don't know if that's a word.
The front drop.
The front drop.
It is total. The blinders.
The blinders. The suffering mind is always making the appearances the primary, the primary, where the primary attention is placed and focused, and you know, it's kind of like invested in. You know, the suffering mind is invested in what's in front of me.
Exactly.
And so even like with the documentary, that was a backdrop. You know, certainly with investment in the documentary and anything, we're always going to suffer because it's like, you know, how is it going to turn out? What's the outcome going to be like? You know, how we're going to handle changes.
What if my files disappear?
That's right. And that is an actual example. So here's a practical example of mind training, how it came up. And Tom, what you're referring to is, as I was working on this documentary, there was this thought, oh my God, what if I lose all this data on my hard drives and I lost all my files? Because I'm working with a very slow computer. And so this fear. And so, yeah, when what's in front of us is made as the center of our world and our life, then we are caught up in trying to maintain it and manage it.
Yeah.
So in my mind, what you're referring to, in my mind, when I was having those thoughts about, oh my God, what if I lose this movie? I was really fearing and in a state of suffering when I was believing in those ideas. Now, that doesn't mean that the possibility of losing all my footage on my computer isn't there. That is a possibility. And this is where the mind training is. And this is how we use it as a backdrop, is we can look at it and say, okay, what does that mean? If I lost everything in this movie, if I lost all this footage, where does that leave me? And to your point, what still remains, which has always remained and will always remain, is what's happening inside, that the awareness, the quiet changelessness that we all experience. And so as we bring our attention or just watch our mind, we widen the scope of what we can see, and we want to see beyond all the stuff that seems to have us, suffering and at the forefront and grabbing our attention. So certainly this movie in many ways has been used as a backdrop. Share with me a little bit, Tom, about what your experience, because I certainly have my own experience, and I'm sure you do, regards to the movie making, what unfolded during the movie making. What did you feel like you got out of it? What did you enjoy? What were some of your thoughts about meeting all these teachers? Because we spent a lot of time on the road, and we spent a lot of time talking to different course teachers who all shared it seemingly in a very different way, all pointing back to the same thing. What are your thoughts as you look back at that?
Well, the first thing I always do is I kind of smile, because I think, when we were on the road together, we laughed a lot. We really did have fun with the whole project. And it wasn't, even when we were doing it, it wasn't so serious. It just didn't seem like it was anything that's like, it has to be a certain way. So there was a lightness about it, and we were just, I think both of us, again, clueless, just going in like, okay, here we are. But, and again, it was for all us, because there was a lot of stuff still, and there still is. It's like, there's just a lot of stuff we're being unwound from. So I remember, there were different things going on with different teachers, and what a beautiful thing to, because you always in the interview, at the end, you invited me to ask a question. And there was various things that were going on at those times, and it was beautiful just to have that reflection, and seeing that. So it's what a great gift, what a great gift it is. Beyond that, it's like, to have that experience and really just same purpose. You hear someone else talking about the purpose that you feel you have, and it's a loving purpose. It's wonderful. And there was tons of love. And, I remember you wanted to, the gift of lilies. I mean, it just sets it up. You walk in with the gift of lilies. I mean, the Course says it's, that's the gift of love and peace, and it's of unity. And so it just set the stage. I mean, that's what it was about. And we were on a road trip, and we were going to some fun cities, and we laughed, and it was great. I mean, what an experience, regardless of what, like, we didn't know if, we were like, okay, yeah, this movie will be made at some point. But we were just kind of in that mode of filming it. And we met amazing people. So yeah, we're blessed. And I just, how could you ever plan any of these things? It just to show that we're, being led. It's just as simple as being led. And look how wonderful. So, and that's what everyone is saying. It's like, if you really just surrender and trust that you have no idea, but there's, a force, a power, a creator that does. I mean, look what happens. Nothing to do with any of us. So, yeah. So, that's kind of where it was when we were there. And I asked some intense questions I remember Carrie Trefett, there was a lot of self-hatred that was like in my face at that point. And I brought it up to her, and I don't even remember exactly how I put it or what I said, but I remember, you could tell that she understood. It's like, you live that, and then, come to realize that the ego will never be loving. So you start seeing things different. So
or would pretend to be loving.
Or pretend. Oh,
its
yeah.
own version.
With its version of like it wants something, or it's it's just it thinks it needs to keep power in some ways. So, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, Tom, because as you were sharing that, you had mentioned some kind of like a connection really with Carrie Trefett when we were, talking to her, and you had shared, and you can see that. But I think that even though that it showed up like that symbolically in the experience, I think we all, to some degree, have that sense of self-hatred. I don't care, who, as long as you think you're a person, you have some form of self-hatred.
You're right.
I think the sneaky way that the ego works is it may appear sometimes that it's subtle and it's hidden. For me, the self-hatred comes in every time I judge the way I look. When I look at my body, every time that I feel guilty about a habit or something that I do, that I say that I don't want to do. Every time I keep every time I keep something hidden from somebody, I'm that's my self-hatred. Every time that I do something that I don't want to do, because I'm afraid that I won't be loved, that's self-hatred. So it's like, it's interesting. It's like, I only share that because self-hatred doesn't necessarily have to be big in its form or look a particular way. The bottom line is, if we ever entertain some form of guilt or judgment on ourselves and anybody else, it's there. It's there, and I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah. And it's also to relate to, it's like, well, who am I, what am I identifying with? Because the ego's never going to, or maybe be a little sneaky, but in the end, it's always going to hate. Because it's the thought of opposite to what our truth is, which is love. So it will always separate. And whether it's you're talking about someone else supposedly, or you hate yourself or someone else, it's all the same stuff. So it's not like, I can get lost in trying to fix that problem of whatever self-hate is, like, what's wrong? Why can't I even? But it's not even about that. It's just like, it's gotten to the point, and that's what the beauty of, traveling, that you just kind of, you just look at that thought and understand that that's the ego playing its tune. And there is a source that'll help us see differently. So you don't even really need to go into why or what or anything like that. And then you see it dissolve. And I would chew on, in younger days, I would chew on self-hatred for a long time, and people can identify with it. Something they don't like about whatever, your body, yada, yada. So anyway, yeah, it's beautiful. Really. I feel it's great. It's like, wow, looking at this from the other side, and to know the depths of despair that I felt suffering, and to really start to see things differently. What we've been asking for is to see things differently, and it's happening. And that is amazing. It's amazing.
That's the miracle.
Yeah, it is a miracle. Yay, miracles.
The course works.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. The course works. Up with the course.
But even if you, it's not even about the course. I said that kiddingly. Of course,
yes.
It's not about the course. This is really about seeing ourselves, in truth, which is whole and complete, and not separate from anything.
Exactly. It's how we're unwinding. It's how this story is unwinding with, something called A Course in Miracles, but we're all unwinding. and it's gonna have, the form is gonna look, but the outcome is the same. So you're right. It isn't even about the course, and I think that's what we've really, it's a backdrop. The course is a backdrop.
Backdrop.
Of course, the backdrop.
Backdrop.
The front drop. We're the front drop.
One of the things that you shared that I thought was important also to look at and highlight is when we did this, and I say when we did this, but I feel like we're still doing it, because there's, also the sharing of the movie, and there's also a lot of other things to unfold that I have no clue about. But you shared about how there's this easiness about taking on the project, and that's not to say that there weren't moments where fear came up, or that there weren't moments where there was confusion in the mind. But generally speaking, the approach was such that, as to the best of our ability, because that's all we can do, right? To the best of our ability, it was not having outcomes in mind.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, this movie was, a backdrop to practice this idea of no outcomes.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, this stretch, this is not about, going into this movie with no outcomes. The learning nugget is really, how do we approach everything, like our entire life, and it's without an outcome? Like, really, like, I mean, here, David Hoffmeister in the movie, David Hoffmeister talks about enlightenment, and a very simple, clean answer about, really just, being so present. There's no awareness of the past. There's no awareness of the future. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we're really talking about when we talk about no outcomes. Can in anything that we do, can we do that at work? Can we do that while we're traveling? Can we do that? Yeah. I just think about, sometimes in my mornings, sometimes I'll get out of bed and I already have my mind going into what the outcome is of breakfast. What will breakfast be? I know. Not that there's anything wrong with those thoughts, and not that there's anything wrong with outcome, but just to look at that in anything that we do, how, I can only speak for this experience with the movie right now, but how free the experience becomes, and then it's allowed to take a shape and form that I could have never thought up.
Well, then it feels inspired, because it is inspired, in every task. So, yeah. I mean, back in the seeming work world, and I can see it's kind of funny how, the planning, gotta have a plan, and it's fun, but yet you can be in the moment while you're planning, right. And really, that's just the way
it becomes a backdrop. And you currently froze. Are you there?
Yeah. Oh, I froze.
Okay. You froze, but you're unfrozen now.
Yeah, I don't even think it was the computer. I think it was my mind. It just kind of like stopped there, and I was like looking up at the ceiling. I don't think the computer was stuck at all. I think it was just, I don't know what I was going to say with that one. So it was, the computer froze.
Awesome.
All right, so I have no idea what we were saying now.
I don't either. So that's all good. So, but now we're sort of finished the film, and going back to this idea of no outcomes. And I have to say, when I started this film, I really had no outcome, no agenda as far as the showing or how that was going to unfold. And here we are, and in September, I'm going to take the movie to a few places, and it's certainly open for invitations to share with others, and share. Once again, sharing the movie with an intent to use the movie as a backdrop, but really share what the message is underneath.
What
I was just going to ask you the same question.
I got ya.
You go first.
All right, I will go first. What is the message underneath? I mean, it's got to be a simple message. It's the simple message is nothing is of you. We have a guide that will that knows, and we don't. We're pretty clueless. Um, so what could be simpler than just surrendering what you think is your separate will and letting uh, something that knows our creator unwind, help us, help us unwind, doing it for us. We just need to be willing, and it's just willingness. And so, but yet it seems so difficult to say, well, I am not I am still the author of my life. I mean, I still feel that pull. It's very strong. That's a pull of separation. So, yeah, it's just that there is something that knows and has our best interests and is doing all the quote unquote work for us. And so you just kind of like relax and remember to laugh. And everyone was just joyous in the movie, and you can see there was such a joy about it. And the course itself is, to me, such a joyful practice, because the things that it speaks of are beautiful. I mean, it's very lofty of our true identity, and it's a wonderful thing. And Matt, it's incredible. So it's letting divinity show you what your true identity is. Allow it to happen.
Yeah.
Just allow it to happen. So, and that's what everyone says. I mean, you don't hear anyone say you got to do this and you got to do that. It's not that. It's like pretty much do less, and do less, and then watch what happens. But with a single purpose. It's very single, and when it's single, it's simple, and I love that. So that's my answer.
Yeah, it's funny because I can share what the movie's message is, but the truth is that the message is whatever anybody interprets of the movie is what the movie's message is, and it'll be perfect. It'll be perfect. But along the lines, I think along the lines of as what you were sharing, I could only speak from my experience through the movie and you talked about doing less. And
yeah.
For somebody, for the mind that's awakening, sometimes that's not clear. What does that mean to do less? And so what I like to think is that the movie really is about following inspiration. And we are getting messages of inspiration. We are led to what's inspiring.
Yeah.
But I think we tend to do more. So like you were saying, do less. We tend to do more, or we tend to think we're doing, and we obscure the inspiration that's coming through. So for example, sometimes in our life experience, we get the inspiration to, take up this hobby, or go see that person, or be with this person, or we have these ideas of projects, very similar to the idea of the project of the movie. And then, in fact, I had a friend recently, not so long ago, tell me that they were inspired to write.
Yeah.
But what happens is then there's the doing thought, or the mind that says, no, that can't happen, because you have to, you can't be a writer because you have to do this. You have to earn your life, the way to sustain yourself. You have to maintain, and you have to do this. Or you can't, you don't have time to, creatively experience this hobby, or you don't have time to, join with whatever else. Basically, there's a thought system in place that doesn't seems to keep you from really following where the heart is kind of pulling you. And so there's this battle in the mind of always trying to make decisions rather than letting decisions be made through inspiration, feeling. Of Course in Miracles, we talk about hearing the Holy Spirit. And that was part of my discovery and journey with the movie, is how do you hear the Holy Spirit, and what does that mean? And there are teachers that hear through a voice, and I didn't hear a voice. Like, what does it mean to hear the Holy Spirit? I don't have someone in my head talking to me, and will I? And how do I make that happen? And really the simplicity, going back to the simplicity of the movie and the message of the movie, and really what I think is the simplicity of the Course teaching, is spirit is not form-based or definable. So the communication Spirit provides is abstract. It is not going to be in specifics, although it may appear to be in specifics, and that's fine too. But the essence of what Spirit is really experience, feeling.
Yep.
It's right here, right now. It's not in the future. It's not in the past. It's right now. What am I being inspired to do? And it could be as simple as lifting the cup and taking a drink of iced tea, or it could be a next step for a major project. We don't know. It doesn't really matter. The point being is it's a very present experience of what it feels, what the feeling is right now, without analyzing it either, because that's where we get into trouble. We start to analyze, well, you know, could I, should I, you know, I can't say this. We're caught up. And so again, the message of the movie is simply to follow inspiration and using inspiration as a means to look at those thoughts that come up. Because certainly, you know, I left my job, and that was a very gentle process, but there were thoughts that came up that were coming up to look at, you know, what's going to happen in my future? Will I be able to sustain myself? You know, how would money come? And those, by the way, those thoughts still come to mind. So this is not like, you know.
I was going to say that too, obviously. I
want to make that clear. So the thoughts, and the Course also says this is not about managing your thoughts in the sense that you're trying to have pure thoughts and that thoughts of fear wouldn't come up. But this is about being able to see it differently. So to what you were sharing before, we talked about backdrops in the beginning of this video. And we talked about, you know, what's happening or seeming to happen not being the main focus. So we're not giving those fearful thoughts the main focus. So even though the thoughts of, you know, how am I going to make a living 6 months from now? I have no idea.
Yeah.
That's a thought, but I'm not giving it the spotlight. It's like, oh, okay, that's a thought. Oh, I can see that in such a way where it's not taken, I'm not embodying that thought, you know, because really the thought, where am I going to be making a living, you know, how am I going to be making a living 6 months to a year from now? That thought is really about the fear of, I got to take care of myself. And so again, going back to what you were saying is how do we embody an experience where we're constantly being taken care of? We follow inspiration and we're trusting that as long as we're making decisions with love, as long as we're making decisions with inspiration, we are supported and carried through always. Yeah. And truthfully, that's always been the case.
It hasn't. It hasn't stopped. It's the case now. It can never stop. It can never stop.
We've always been taken care of.
Yeah, and we always will be.
And that's the one, you know, the one thing I always, you know, if I'm ever in a situation where someone's asking or sharing a seeming problem, I can't figure out the answer. I don't know what the answer is, but the one promise I can always make is we will always be okay.
Yeah.
You cannot ever not be okay.
I know.
And by the way, totally beautiful. Yeah. The word okay, it's a simple word, you know, okay. But boy, isn't that what we want to feel when we're in the depths of fear? We just want
the experience of okay. Yes. To know that you really are fully supported. Because you can talk about it. But once you experience it, I mean, just the relief of thinking that you have to manage something and you have to figure something out, and the relief of all of that going away, it's incredible. And I feel like I get glimpses of it, but you could feel it. You could feel it happening. So, yeah. Imagine, the Course says, imagine a world without cares, without worry. Imagine a world without worry. I mean, come on, imagine it. Why not? So, yeah, a world without worry. It's fun. It's fun. And the truth is, the more you like live life as like a world without worry. The more when worry shows up, you're kind of like, yeah, all right. That's interesting. There's another way. You know, you just see that you kind of like, you see the weakness is almost the word I want to use, the nothingness of worry, of fear. You almost see it because you see it's like, okay, where is that right now? This is a story. This is some kind of scenario that's going on in my head that's, you know, that this seems to be triggering fear. And, you know, and ultimately the same answer is not even to analyze what's the fear, what are you afraid of? It's just like, okay, this is just, you know, there's the moment I'm making a choice. It seems like I'm making a choice to separate, which again, you can't even do, but you think you can. And then it just, you know, and so it just starts to dissolve on its own. And again, is we're being carried down a path and during the summer, gently. So yeah. Yup. It's beautiful. So I don't even know how we got on that.
I don't either.
Yeah,
we followed the gentle path.
We do follow the gentle path. But it was really about, yeah, following inspiration. So when you say following inspiration, you know, for you, to me, when you say that's what the movie was about, is this is really following guidance.
Yeah. And I think when we follow inspiration or we follow guidance, however that is showing up for us, whatever it looks like, what inevitably happens. So let's say I'm inspired to, you know, to learn how to make a movie, because that's actually what happened. I had to figure out how do you take on making a movie. Whenever we're inspired to do, yeah, right. Whenever we're inspired to do anything, there's always going to be, you know, the thoughts of fear about following that path.
Yes.
You know, so there's fear about, oh my God, I don't know how to make a movie. I don't know anything about cameras. I don't know anything about, you know, who's gonna want to sit down and talk to me. So when we follow inspiration, inevitably we'll have those thoughts come up. But the beauty about following inspiration and why it's so important is when we do that and we watch those thoughts come up, we're able to confront one by one each one of our fears. So we're like looking at fear right in the face, and only through looking at fear right in the face, only through confronting it to say, okay, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to take what is in front of me, the next step. Only in confronting fear do we realize that, you know what? That was nothing to be afraid of.
Nothing there.
So, nothing there. Okay, so I was rejected, which I was rejected multiple times for the movie for people that I want to interview. I want to interview Marianne Williamson. She said no. There was another teacher I wanted to interview who said no. And that's fine. But that was what I was afraid of, that people would say no. But I survived. Again, I was okay. And so it's through, and that's just one example, it's through working or facing those challenges that we start to recognize, oh wait, I'm okay. Oh wait. Oh, I can be carried through any experience and face any one of my fears.
Exactly.
Because through it, I will always be okay. And so this movie's message is about following inspiration. Because once we face our fears, and as we face our fears, our fears begin to, and I think it was kind of what you were saying, is they take a weak characteristic. They're not taking us seriously anymore. Mm-hmm. So everything is looked at with rather than a strong charge and reaction.
Yeah.
And again, that's not to say that doesn't happen. That still may appear, charges and reactions.
It seems to happen. Yes.
but time collapses, in which case I'm not carrying a charge for hours or days or weeks.
Yeah.
You know, the charge, and then it's like, oh wait, oh, there's the thought, you know, oh, that I got afraid. I thought I was going to fail. I thought that, you know, if anybody found out that I was a failure, I would, you know, lose love or something, whatever the irrational thought is. But by facing the fear, and that's what the course is teaching us to do, is really to look at what we don't want to face. So whatever we're keeping hidden and shining the light on it. It's coming up, shining the light on it, which really means the light of awareness. So we're shining our awareness. We're not pretending. It's calling forth, real honesty. And
Yeah.
so in that, it has to dissolve. The darkness has to dissolve in the light.
Yeah. You don't go into a room and look for a, what's, I don't know how the Course puts it. You're talking about light switch. Oh, maybe this was Eckhart Tolle about there's no dark switch. Like you can't like put on the dark, something like that. Yeah,
Right.
once the light is in, the light dissolves the darkness, and what is that is just, this is not your light. This light is of everything, and it's available to us at all times, and it will show when that light comes in. That's not of a personal you. It will shine away all the stuff that you think is a personal you, and yeah, and it's like, wow, that's freedom. And actually that's the part of the Course that freaked me out when I first reading it. It was like, wait, there's no personality going to go to heaven. Tom, the personality, is not going to be floating around heaven. I can't give that up. And that really kind of freaked me out. And now it's like, it feels like the greatest gift because it's like, this personality can, have some moments. We all know that one.
I think all personalities have moments.
Yeah, because that's what a personality is. So
it is.
You
traded in for eternity.
Exactly. For complete, like utter, consistent, everlasting peace and joy. Yeah, I think so. And that's just words. I mean, that's just, but there is an experience with it. Like, we can talk about this forever. But the truth is we have experienced moments, like even in the opening of the movie, you had mentioned, when you woke up in the middle of the night and you experienced that deep love, you just experienced it, like there it was. And it's something that, you can't even describe, but you tried in the beginning of the movie. And that was just the point to say, look, that's what's there. I experienced it. Everyone has access to it. So yeah, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yep, and that's exactly what the Course's aim is really to experience. I mean, it's like, I think we all, I don't know this, but I'm imagining that many of us have a lot of intellectual understanding of, or we come into an intellectual understanding of the metaphysical principles, or even the Course.
Which is
it's like,
it's a step.
Which is a step.
It is. I mean, really, the intellectual understanding will precede it, yes. But
and so the experience, I feel like, is really, Spirit's kind of way of showing you witness, like, okay, yeah, so here, whatever that experience is, it's
whatever.
I mean, many people have many different spiritual experiences,
yeah.
But it's like truth.
When it happens, you know it. You can feel it. You can really feel it. It, and we all know it when there's something that's not of us that we're experiencing. So, yeah, that's it, baby.
That's it. So
baby.
what? I feel to ask you about the movie. Out of all the teachers, and I wouldn't put you in the position of saying which one's your favorite.
Yeah.
No, I'm just curious. Is there one teacher that stands out that you maybe had a shift in the way you saw things, or is not making one better than the other, or anything like that? Just curious if any stayed with you.
I'll tell you what came to mind, and it's Earl Purdy. I love this, and it still makes me smile, and it's so true. It's so perfect. He was like, when I read the Course, I figured, well, if that's what it's telling me to do, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to just take it on faith. If it says this, you're sustained by the love of God, I'm like, all right, I'm sustained by the love of God. And and that's so beautiful. It was like pure faith and trust. And really just wonderful and so humorous. So yeah, that's one thing that always, you know, stuck out with me. It's just like really funny, just funny. And um, so that was really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he made me laugh. I mean, a lot of them
Yeah.
made me laugh, and that whole part where he talks about the course kind of defining understanding as acceptance. So in other words, when we don't understand something, it's because really we don't accept it.
Yeah. That's
That's
nice.
that's one underneath.
Nice. Yeah.
So I thought that was a really good teaching or
Yeah.
something that he shared that landed with me. So it helps remind me. Wait a second, you know, if I don't understand this, is there really a part of me that's not willing to accept what it's saying? And
Yeah.
so, like he pointed out so eloquently, he's like, I know what you're not a body means. It doesn't take a PhD to figure out, you know, what you're not a body means.
Right.
But do we accept it?
Yeah.
That's the
a
question.
whole other story.
And so the mind gets, you know, trapped in this whole, how do I understand? How do I come to understand I'm not a body? And certainly the course is filled with a lot of things.
How do I experience it? How do I experience
Yeah.
life without the limitations of the body? I mean, this is what we were just talking about. It's like, what is that experience like? And I think a lot of people have had glimpses of what it's like to be without a body. Like all of a sudden you're just not aware of the body. It's like, wow, you know. But it's the ego doesn't home.
Yeah, and whatever experience that is, it's not conceptual.
Yeah.
And I only share that because in my mind tends to want to, especially when it comes to experience, there's a tendency in the mind to try to figure out what that experience is like. And it is that part of the mind that's blocking the experience.
Yeah. Tried to
the part of the mind that's saying what is the experience of no limitation?
Yeah, exactly.
What we're trying to imagine what the experience of no limitation, that part of the mind that's trying to figure it out is the part that is obscuring it.
Yeah.
Which I think is it's a beautiful joke that you know the course says we forgot to laugh.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to laugh at is the power of the mind.
Well, we've been laughing. I can tell you that much. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. Yep.
So right now, I want to just kind of update. So you are on the road. Where are you right now?
I am in Detroit City. Detroit
and
City.
I'm in Hawaii. How is your traveling so far, and how is it being used for as a backdrop? What's coming up for you? Because you've been just to kind of put a little bit of a backstory. You've been in Hawaii with me actually for the last 6-7 months.
December, right? Yeah, straight on, full on.
And so now and for people who don't know this, we here in Hawaii, a very rural area. Closest town is like 25 minutes away. And by the way, I just did an article and video on loneliness, so I shared a little bit about like the remoteness of this, in contrast to being in LA.
Yeah.
So you're going through contrast because you've left here where you are encountering a few bodies. Now you're out on the road in big cities, and so what is that like for you? How's that all being used as a backdrop?
Well, it's funny, the first thing that came to mind, and I think I told a few people here, how did I put it? I saw more people in New York City in a span of about 3 hours than I've seen so far in the 2 years that I've been on the Big Island. Yeah, I mean, seriously, if I had to count like all the people that I would have encountered, I'm like, and this was only in like a couple of blocks. I mean, there are people everywhere. People. I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. But it wasn't really, when I would have done that before, it would have come from a place of suffering. And that's the beauty of it now. Now it's coming from a place of, wow, this is pretty damn cool. Look at this contrast. I mean, horns blaring, airplane, just constant. It's really funny. And I'm having a good time. I mean, I'm enjoying my time with everybody and seeing people, and but it's just amazing how much, and it's all a reflection of what's in, how much noise there is both internally and externally that seems to be needed to be forgiven, so, this New York City is not outside of me. This is not like a separate city that's kind of floating around somewhere on the East Coast, and so, when I think of Lila and I think of radical forgiveness, it's just like, really just, just loving all of it, everything that comes, and joining with it, and realizing that, this person's not having an opinion. This is person showing me something, an opinion that's within, or not even within, or in the mind, that's coming up for the light. And that's what it's there to do. So to have this now, because this is the third time I'm coming out on, I leave Hawaii for a long period of time. And each time it's like, yeah, okay. I see that. That's interesting. And it's I'm giving witness. I'm giving witness to see that. So, and it's a blast.
I'm sure it is. I'm actually gonna be traveling soon, and I'm looking
forward. I know, and I'm excited. Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll see you on the road. I think that and you'll join me on the road. But I think what you shared, which I think is important to just take a look at, is this is really about peace of mind, regardless of where the body seems to be. So if the body is in Hawaii, or if this body's in the middle of New York City, can the mind? Well, it's not a question of can the mind, because the mind can. It's yes,
and does.
And does.
Yeah.
We may not be aware about.
It's happening.
We may not be aware of the peace
that's always there.
We may not be aware of the peace, but the mind is at peace always. And despite the fact that we may be in a city with horns and lights and blah, 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 can we maintain the peace? And I say, can we maintain, but it's really not us maintaining. Are we willing to allow, the truth,
tap into it,
to be peaceful?
Yeah.
And not grab onto those thoughts. Like you were talking about suffering in New York. I remember, like, the mind wants to get caught up in comparisons of,
I suffered a lot in New York in the past.
It's too loud.
Oh my God. Oh yeah.
LA, New York, too many people, these types of people. And again, not that there's anything wrong with any of that, but when we get caught up in this idea that we know what's better and there's differences, then we will suffer.
Mm-hmm. And the ego will never make it like a, its comparisons will make you just not happy. Just put it that way. Its comparisons will always keep you down. And, so then that's good to see. And then as that momentum builds, you feel it, you actually start to experience it. And then you see the reflection in the seeming outside world, your interactions with people. And it's like, okay, this person's not outside of me. And then you just realize, well, they're just reflecting love because I'm loving them. We're loving each other. There's love in the mind. So, yeah.
Awesome. So we are going to be winding down in a few minutes. Anything that you want to share about the movie, or to anyone who may be watching or listening to this?
Well, it really is such a movie that was so inspired. by spirit, to get a message out, to just have this voice be spoken. You know, we say often that, you know, we didn't make a movie, the movie made us, or something like that. You know, type of thing where this message is just out to be shared. And it's really about sharing love and as a tool to tell us the truth. You know, it's a lesson on saying the truth is there, and what's the truth? It's our identity. And what's our identity? You know, we're the Son of God. We're nothing less than everything, and we're nothing at all. And we're all of it, and none of it, and just can't even be. That's why it's like you can't even describe it. But we all kind of know it's there. We do. We feel it. We can feel it. So, you know, this movie is just it's someone who's, it's just like awakening to your true identity, Craig. You know, and there is no Craig, but it's like, this is you. Even me, like right now, this moment here is saying, you know, you're awakening to your true identity. You know, this is not outside of you. So, you know, the seeming, you know, as we watch the identity shift from a corporate person who's coming out of, you know, their environment to just kind of letting it all go and taking this walk of trust, that it's clear that this walk of trust, this path, this easy path is available for everybody. It's not that you did anything special. It's that you didn't do anything special, really. It's that you realized you weren't special. It's available to everybody. And, you know, that shows that transition is there for everybody. And it's going to happen. It's happening. So, yeah. And so to see that, in this movie through a fictional character named Craig, seemingly leaving a high-paying job and jumping into the unknown. You know, it's everybody's story. It's leaving that false identity and jumping and trusting your true one. And it's what's happening in this world. And and that's what this movie is about. And you have a lot of people waking up to this. So seemingly it's the mind waking up. So there's my 2 cents.
Well, I like your 2 cents, and I think that's really what draws us all to this, whatever this is, which is a reminder of our innocence. And yeah, we are sons of God. We are extensions of Source. We are innocence. We are everything and nothing. Yeah. We are love. We are certainly more than you know, these bodies seem to appear, or the credit we seem to get from these bodies. We are so much more than that. And as you said so eloquently, we are that's a guarantee. Our awakening is a guarantee.
100%.
No one's left out. 100%. No one's left out.
No one's left behind.
No one's left behind. I love you so much.
I love you too, Craig. Look,
and I can't wait to see you.
This wise owl is for you.
Awesome.
There's
kind of looks like me.
It does look like. As long as you don't sound like Daffy Duck, we're good.
I love you so much, and I can't wait to bump into you and see you when I'm in on the road.
Yeah, what's that?
LA.
I love you.
I love you.